Dear listener, to a place where stories breathe softly and history whispers beneath the stars. You've arrived at a quiet corner of the world, a space made for dreamers, thinkers, and weary souls in search of calm. Here, we don't just tell stories. We invite you to feel them, to walk the ancient roads, to sit beside forgotten heroes, to witness legends unfold, all at the peaceful pace of your own breath. Tonight, we begin another journey. One not of noise or speed, but of stillness and wonder. As you settle in, perhaps beneath warm blankets or beneath a canopy of stars, I invite you to let go of the day's weight. Close your eyes if you wish, or simply listen. This story will not rush. It will unfold like parchment, slow and steady, wrapping you in the poetry of the past. If you enjoy this kind of storytelling, calm, thoughtful, and steeped in myth and memory, I gently encourage you to subscribe, leave a like, or share a comment below. Your support helps this little sanctuary grow, and it means more than you know. So breathe deep. Relax. Let your mind wander. Whether you stay awake to the very end or drift into sleep before we're through, know this: you are welcome here, always. Now, let us begin. In the realm of the gods, where time curls like mist and stars echo with stories, a celebration unfolds. The mortal hero Peleus is to wed the sea nymph Thetis, radiant and divine. Their union is foretold to produce greatness, perhaps even chaos. Mount Olympus glitters with celestial laughter. Gods and goddesses descend like golden rain, feasting, drinking nectar, and dancing on clouds. Apollo strings his lyre, Artemis sips ambrosia. All rejoice, except one. Eris, the goddess of strife, stands uninvited. Her anger, sharp as a serpent's fang, coils in silence. She tosses a golden apple onto the banquet table. Its inscription shimmers. To the fairest, laughter dims. The first note of discord has been struck. The apple rolls, glinting like fire, to the feet of three goddesses: Hera, queen of Olympus; Athena, goddess of wisdom; and Aphrodite, goddess of love. Each claims it as hers. Eris, smirking, fades into the ether. Her mission is complete. She has planted the seed of vanity, pride, and eventual ruin. The argument swells. Olympus trembles not with war, but with wounded pride. The goddesses demand resolution, a judge one mortal enough to see truth, yet naive enough to be swayed. They choose Paris, a prince of Troy, handsome, distant from the politics of gods, and as fate would have it, destined to tip the scales of history. Far away from Troy, on the slopes of Mount Ida, Paris lives in pastoral exile. Once a prince, now a shepherd. Unknown to him, three goddesses descend in a shimmer of light. They stand before him: Hera, with her regal poise; Athena, with piercing eyes; and Aphrodite, with the scent of roses in spring. Each offers a bribe. Hera promises power, Athena promises wisdom and victory, and Aphrodite promises love, specifically the love of the most beautiful woman on earth. Paris, with the folly of youth and the ache of longing, chooses Aphrodite. His heart makes the choice, but the gods will make him pay. A hush falls. Hera's fury burns. Athena turns with silent wrath. Only Aphrodite smiles. She has won the prize, but the cost will be immense. Paris holds the golden apple aloft, his fate sealed by desire. He does not yet know the woman promised. To him is already wed. The wheels of war, slow and grinding, begin to turn. No blade has yet been drawn, no city burned, but the future quakes beneath the surface. Far in Sparta, Queen Helen dreams of a stranger's eyes. The gods are whispering, and history is shifting. Helen, daughter of Zeus and Leda, moves through the halls of Sparta like a song. Her beauty is legend, her poise divine. Kings once fought for her hand, and now she is wife to Menelaus, the Spartan king. But destiny has already twisted her thread. Aphrodite, radiant and bold, prepares her champion. Paris shall cross the seas, cloaked as a guest, somewhere beyond the waves. A storm brews its name is Paris. The Trojan prince arrives in Sparta. He is welcomed with courtesy and feasting, for he is of noble blood. Helen sees him, and the world tilts. Aphrodite's spell dances between them like flame. Paris speaks poetry. Helen listens, her heart stirring against reason. Menelaus, unaware, departs for Crete in his absence. Love or something more dangerous consumes the queen. Whether by magic or will, she follows Paris. The sails are raised. The ship cuts through the wind-arc sea, and in its wake, Sparta burns not with fire but with betrayal. Night cloaks the sea, stars wheel overhead. Helen stands on the deck beside Paris, her eyes wide, not with fear, but with the weight of decision. Behind her, a kingdom betrayed. Ahead, a city she has never seen. The gods murmur approval, or is it laughter? Troy's towers rise in the distance, ancient and proud. Paris believes he brings home a prize, a queen, but in truth he brings a curse. Helen's face, once a blessing, will soon be remembered only for the 1,000 ships it launched. Menelaus returns to an empty palace. The servants tremble. The queen is gone. His heart cracks, and wrath fills the void. He calls upon his brother, Agamemnon, High King of Mycenae. Oaths once sworn by Helen's suitors stir to life. The kings of Greece are summoned, no longer bound by peace. They sharpen blades, string bows, and summon fleets. Troy, they vow, will fall. What began as love or lusties now declared as justice. Years ago, before Helen chose Menelaus, all her suitors pledged an oath to defend her husband against any future wrongs. Odysseus, Ajax, Diomedes, Nestor, all bound by it. They gather again, not as rivals, but as allies in vengeance. Agamemnon takes command. 1,000 ships are built. Drums of war echo across the coastlines. The world begins to darken with sails. The gods smile, each choosing a side. Destiny is no longer whispered. It marches in sandals and bronze. On the beaches of Aulis, the ships wait. The wind holds back, silent as a grave. Sacrifices are made, prayers whispered, but the gods demand more. The Greeks will wait. The journey will be long. Blood will flow like wine. But this is just the beginning. In the east, Troy stands proud, unaware of what looms. In the west, an armada prepares to carve its place into legend. The horse is not yet built, the city not yet doomed, but the tale has begun, and its voice will echo across the ages. Sleep now, gentle dreamer. Tomorrow the tide of war shall rise. The halls of Mycenae glow in the dying light, golden stone warmed by the sun's last breath. Inside, Menelaus stands tall, his voice trembling not with sorrow, but with resolve. His brother, King Agamemnon, listens. The room falls still. Helen, his queen, his pride, has been stolen, and not by a thief in the night, but by a guest, a prince, a foreign son of Troy. It is not just love lost, it is honor shattered. Agamemnon rises. The war will not be his brothers alone. This insult is to all of Greece. The gods have offered them cause. Now they shall offer their swords. Messengers ride like shadows cast by vengeance. One by one, the kings of Greece recall their vow. They had sworn it freely years ago, to stand against any who would dare dishonor that sacred. Ajax, a giant among men, all answer. They do not ride for Menelaus alone. They ride for their word, their pride, their gods. In the rocky lands of Ithaca, Odysseus stares out at the sea, troubled. Clever, clever Odysseus. His mind is a fortress of reason. He knows what war brings, not glory, but grief. He has a son now, a wife, Penelope, whose eyes hold galaxies. A quiet life, peace, and yet the oath binds him too. When the summons comes, Odysseus feigns madness, plowing salt into his fields. But the ruse is seen through. A baby is placed before the blade. He stops, and just like that, Ithaca's king steps into the shadow of Troy. Far from war drums, on the island of Cyrus, a boy grows beneath silken robes. Achilles, the son of a goddess, hidden among maidens. His mother Thetis knows the future. If he goes to Troy, he will never return. But if he stays, his name will fade into silence. Odysseus, cunning as ever, arrives with trickery. He lays out gifts, gems, silks, and a sword. The boy cannot resist. His hand finds the hilt. The warrior awakens. The disguise falls, and with it, peace. Achilles boards the ship. History inhales. The winds carry whispers of fate, and the seer Calchas listens at Aulis. Among the ships and banners, he speaks his visions aloud. Troy will never fall without Achilles, and yet more is demanded. Artemis, goddess of the hunt, has stilled the winds. No sail will move until a royal daughter dies. The prophecy chokes the air. Silence clings to every tent. Eyes turn to Agamemnon, to his daughter Iphigenia. The gods, once again, demand a sacrifice. The beach groans beneath the weight of war. Ships line the coast like polished teeth gleaming in the sun. Each sail tells a story of kings, of cities, of destiny. Men train, chant, and sharpen steel. Horses are fed. Armor is fitted. Oil lamps burn through the night. The world's greatest army prepares to cross the sea. Achilles, young and wild, races chariots. Ajax trains with his massive spear. Odysseus watches quietly, his thoughts tangled in webs of consequence, and all wait for the winds to shift. The altar is cold stone. The sky above, merciless. Iphigenia is brought to Aulis under the promise of marriage to Achilles. But there is no bridal veil, only flame. Agamemnon's heart trembles as the blade is lifted. A father's grief swells in his chest, but duty crushes it. Some say Artemis saves the girl in the last instant, replacing her with a deer. Others say the sacrifice is carried out in silence. Either way, the winds begin to blow. The ships are ready. The war begins. The sea stirs at dawn. Gulls cry and waves dance. Sails snap to life, eager to drink the sky. Thousands of oars dip into the deep. each beat a heartbeat of war. The gods appeased, for now clear the skies. The Greek fleet moves like a tide unleashed. From the cliffs mothers weep, sons vanish on the horizon. The Aegean yawns wide, Troy waits beyond. It is no longer a gathering, it is an exodus. The ocean stretches endlessly, filled with wooden hulls and bronze-tipped spears. Each ship bears warriors whose names will echo, in songs will vanish like dew. Achilles stands at the bow, eager as a storm. Odysseus studies the stars. Menelaus clenches his fists. Agamemnon thinks of the cost already paid. There is no turning back. The sails carry wrath, and wrath will land on Trojan shores. After days upon the sea, Troy rises from the horizon, its towers tall, gates gleaming in the sun. It is beautiful, defiant, ancient. The Greeks drop anchor. Their feet touch foreign sand. Shields are raised. Horns sound low. The war has not begun yet. But the first footsteps echo with fate. Behind those walls lies Helen, and beyond her 10 long years of blood, fire, and destiny. Close your eyes now, traveler. The storm has arrived, but the siege has only begun. Troy's gates rise like the teeth of giants, carved by gods and shaped by time. They shimmer in the morning light, polished by centuries of pride. Breathes in peace, the markets bustle, temple bells chime. Children laugh in shadowed courtyards from the towers. Lookouts spy sails approaching, black against the blue. Within marble halls, King Priam sits in aged grace. His beard is white, his eyes are stars, dulled by war's memory. Hecuba stands beside him, his queen, fierce and noble, bearing sorrow with regal silence. They know the cost of pride and prophecy. They have buried sons before, but now a fleet rides toward their shore, and with it, fate. They do not tremble. They summon counsel. Hector enters the court, armor gleaming. His voice is calm, his mind a fortress. Son of Priam, brother to Paris, defender of Troy. He speaks not of fear, but of duty. He will lead the defense, should war come, for honor, for family, for the cities. Soul. His presence stills the room. Even the elders, wary and wise, trust his strength. Outside, the drums of the approaching Greeks begin to echo faintly across the sea. The gates open. Paris rides in, Helen beside him. The people gather in silence. Some cheer, others mutter. Helen's beauty strikes like lightning, but with it comes unease. The city feels heavier now. Priam greets them with forced warmth. Hecuba does not speak. Hector looks at his brother with a silent, burning question. Why has this woman brought an army to their shores? Torches flicker in the council chamber. The air is thick with incense and tension. Antenor, old and wise, urges peace. Return the woman, he says. End this before it begins. Paris bristles. Pride flares. Others take sides, some for diplomacy, others for defiance. Cassandra, the cursed seer, cries out that doom is near. No one listens. The decision is made. They will not yield. The gates shall stay shut. Troy will stand proud. In the temple halls, Cassandra kneels. Her eyes roll back. Visions strike her like lightning across a darkened sky. She sees ships burning, men dying, walls crumbling, her brothers bleeding into dust. A wooden shape, massive, hollow, terrifying. She screams, but no one believes her. No one ever has. The gift of prophecy is hers. So is the curse, to never be believed. High in the towers, Andromache Hector's wife watches the sea. Her hand rests on her swollen belly. She dreams of her unborn son. She dreams of peace, but war clouds the future. Her heart aches with the weight of knowing heroes never live forever, and glory does not fill an empty cradle. She holds Hector's hand that night, longer than usual. Plans unfold like maps across carved stone tables. Hector prepares defenses. Archers line the walls. Spears are stacked. Messengers ride through the countryside, summoning allies Dardanians, Lycians, Phrygians. Troy will not fight alone. Engineers reinforce the gates. Slingers melt lead. The air fills with the taste of iron and oil. A siege is coming. They all feel it. Dawn cracks. The first Greek ships ground themselves on the shore. Bronze-armored warriors leap into surf, shields raised. Ajax, massive and fearless. Diomedes, swift and sharp. Agamemnon commands from high upon his chariot. The beach turns to fire and cries. The Trojans respond. Arrows fly from the walls. The great gates remain sealed, unmoved. War has begun. The clash of blades sings through the surf. Greeks press forward. Trojans resist. Spears shatter. Shields splinter. Horses scream. Among them, Achilles bursts forward like flame, cutting through lines like a god unleashed. Hector watches from the walls, calculating, waiting. The beach becomes a graveyard of ambition. The sea, once quiet, now churns with blood. Sleep now, wanderer of dreams, for tomorrow the siege begins in earnest, and the gods are not yet finished. The beaches of Troy become a second homeland for the Greeks. They build not just tents, but a city of war. Rows of black ships, makeshift barracks, and blazing hearths. Spears are stacked like timber. Shields line the dunes. Smoke rises into the sky, day and night. Fires for cooking, fires for forging, fires for burning the dead. The siege has begun, and it will last not for days nor weeks, but years. Seasons pass like migrating birds. The war settles into rhythm. Raids by day, skirmishes at dusk, burials by moonlight. The walls of Troy remain unbroken. The Greeks grow restless. They sack surrounding towns. They steal food, treasure, and women. The line between soldier and raider blurs. Inside Troy, hope dims but does not die. The people pray. The warriors prepare. The walls hold. The gods watch and wait. To weaken Troy, the Greeks strike the towns that feed her. The fields of Mysia are trampled. The shrines of Lyrnessus are looted. Cities fall like fruit from a shaken tree. From these raids, spoils are claimed. Among them, Briseis, a priestess, a woman of grace. She becomes the prize of Achilles, and with her, the seeds of future discord are quietly sown. On the battlefield, Achilles is like lightning, sudden, beautiful, and deadly. No warrior stands against him and lives. His spear is guided by fate itself. His name is spoken in whispers by Trojans, in cheers by Greeks, but his fame grows dangerous. Even kings begin to fear the shadow he casts. He is more than a soldier, born in human form. Not all victories come by blade. Odysseus, ever the thinker, plays with minds as others do with swords. He tricks enemy scouts, sabotages supply lines, sows confusion with spies. He steals sacred relics, hides soldiers inside enemy lines, finds paths through dreams and deception. In war, brawn matters, but brains win battles, and Odysseus is the sharpest blade of all. Hector grows into a legend of his own. He rides along the walls, inspires his troops, and meets the Greek advances with a courage rooted not in glory, but in love for his home. Troy becomes a city under siege, yet undefeated. Its people endure, its warriors rise again, day after day. The horsemen of Troy grow faster, their walls more formidable, their resolve unbreakable. Hector adapts. He studies the enemy, learns their strengths and flaws. He leads nighttime ambushes, builds barricades within the gates, lures Greeks into traps. He is the heart of Troy's defense, the mind behind the shield. To the Trojans, he is hope. To the Greeks, he is the wall itself. The war stretches like a shadow across the land, and Hector stands tall beneath it. In a high tower, Helen watches the fighting below. Her beauty has become a burden, her name a weapon. She walks the palace halls like a ghost, neither prisoner nor queen. She weeps for those who die in her name, for Menelaus, for Paris, for the Greeks, for Troy. She prays to the gods, but none answer. They too are bound in this web. She cannot change the past. She cannot stop what's to come. Above, in the halls of Olympus, the gods sit like spectators at a great play. Zeus remains distant, uncertain. Athena favors the Greeks. Apollo protects the Trojans. Hera stirs chaos in Agamemnon's heart. They meddle when they please, aid their champions, set traps of fate, but they do not end the war. Not yet, for this is more than conflict. It is a reckoning. 9 years of fighting carves cracks into the strongest armor. Warriors quarrel, kings argue, pride festers like an untreated wound. Achilles grows distant, Agamemnon more ruthless. Trust erodes like coastal stone. In Troy, famine whispers through alleyways. Mothers pray for peace. Fathers prepare their sons for the line of fire. Both sides wait for a turn of the tide, but the tide is not coming. Not yet. Sleep, now, dreamer of ancient wars. The breaking point approaches. In the Greek camp, the spoils of war are more than silver and wine. They are women, taken as prizes, tokens of victory. Briseis, the priestess captured from Lyrnessus, is given to Achilles. But when Agamemnon is forced to return his own prize to appease Apollo's wrath, he demands Briseis instead. Achilles stands silent, seething. She is not just a prize. She is his, in the only fragile way something could belong in war. Agamemnon tears her away, and with her, Achilles' loyalty. Achilles does not raise his sword. He does not scream. He simply walks away from battle, from his comrades, from the war. He returns to his tent. He orders his myrmidons to stand down. The camp watches, stunned. Without Achilles, the Greeks are a body missing its heart. But Achilles is not broken. He is waiting, and his silence thunders louder than any battle cry. The Greeks grow weary. Without Achilles, their strongest warrior, the tide begins to turn. Trojan raids strike deeper. Their champions fight bolder. Hope flickers behind the walls of Ilium. Agamemnon grows harsh. Menelaus fights with renewed rage. But neither can fill the void Achilles leaves behind. Even Odysseus, ever calm, knows without Achilles, the war may be lost. Hector rises like a lion awakened. He sees the cracks forming in the Greek front. He rallies his men. The Trojans surge from the gates with unexpected fury. They push the Greeks back to their ships. Fires rage along the beach. The tide of war has shifted. The city dares to hope again. But Hector knows this is not victory. Not yet. In desperation, the Greeks send an embassy to Achilles. Odysseus, Phoenix, and Ajax approach his tent with caution and reverence. They offer gold, honor, marriage alliances. They offer apology. Achilles listens. He does not yell. He does not rage. He simply shakes his head. No offer can undo the insult. No gift can soothe the wound. His war is over, he says. Let the Greeks fall. Odysseus, the master of words, tries again. He speaks not of anger, but of legacy, of how stories live longer than men, of glory earned only in fire. He reminds Achilles of prophecy. If he returns home, he will live. But forgotten, if he stays, he will die, but be remembered forever. Achilles looks to the sea. The waves do not answer. Night falls. Achilles sits beside the water, thinking of Briseis, of his mother Thetis, of immortality. His heart is not stone, but it is closed. He plays his lyre. He sings songs of old battles and distant gods, and he waits. Not for peace, nor compromise, but for purpose. Patroclus, dearest companion to Achilles, cannot watch the Greeks fall. He begs for a chance to fight, not as himself, but disguised in Achilles' armor, a symbol to rally the men. Achilles hesitates. His heart sways. Patroclus, gentle and brave, is all that remains of his joy. At last Achilles agrees. He lends his armor and his blessing, but not his spear. Patroclus rides to war. The Greeks see him and cheer, and they believe Achilles has returned. The tide turns. Patroclus fights like fire reborn, scattering Trojans like leaves in wind. Even Hector is caught off guard, but armor is not the man Patroclus fights on. Deeper and bolder, beyond the limits of luck, in the Krychta Urkel. In the chaos of dust and bronze, Patroclus meets Hector. The duel is brief. Desperate, fated, Hector strikes, not knowing who he slays. The armor fools him, but not forever. As Patroclus falls, he whispers to Hector, Achilles will come. The sun sets crimson over the battlefield, and the wrath of Achilles stirs in silence. Rest now, dreamer, for tomorrow grief shall take form, shall find its voice. The battlefield swells with noise. Patroclus, wrapped in Achilles' armor, burned through Trojan lines like a falling star. His sword sings. His chariot wheels churn mud and blood alike. The Greeks shout his name, mistaking him for their hero. But beneath the bronze and plume, it is not Achilles who rides. Only love dressed in courage, and love, even armed, cannot outrun fate. From the heart of Troy's formation, Hector sees the warrior cutting through his ranks. He believes it is Achilles, and so he charges. The two meet in a storm of dust and steel. Hector, strong and seasoned. Patroclus, desperate and bold. Blades clash, shields crack. For a moment, the sky itself seems to pause. Then comes the blow. The spear strikes true. Patroclus falls, armor shattered, his body broken beneath the weight of hope. As he dies, his voice is not bitter, only mournful. You did not kill me, he says softly. It was fate and Apollo and Achilles' absence. And then a whisper, Achilles will come. The battlefield falls silent, for even victory feels hollow when it echoes with prophecy. Hector strips the armor from Patroclus. The Greeks recoil. The Trojans cheer. The body is claimed, but not the spirit. The armor is taken as a prize, a symbol. Hector dons it before his people, but the armor does not bless him. It marks him. Far away, Achilles feels a chill crawl over his skin. Something precious has shattered. he does not yet know what. The messenger stumbles into Achilles' tent, bloodied and pale. There are no words needed. Achilles falls to his knees. The world dims. Grief, heavy as armor, presses upon him. He tears at his hair. He weeps not like a warrior, but like a brother lost in shadow. Thetis, his mother, rises from the sea. She hears his cry. The fire in Achilles' heart blazes once more. Brighter, crueler. He no longer speaks of honor or insult, only vengeance. The wrath that once slept now coils, awakened and sharp. It will not spare Hector. It will not spare Troy. He calls for his men, for his weapons, for war. The camp holds its breath. Far beneath Olympus, in the forge of gods, Hephaestus strikes metal with divine fire. At Thetis' request, he makes a new armor for Achilles, one no mortal hand can match. A shield that holds the world's stories, a breastplate kissed by starlight. Each blow rings with fate. The gods watch in silence. Clad in his new armor, Achilles stands before his men. He swears he will not eat, sleep, or rest until Hector lies in the dust. He will drown the plain in blood if he must. His voice is steel, his eyes flame. He does not seek glory, he does not seek peace, only retribution. Olympus stirs, Zeus frowns, Athena sharpens her gaze, Apollo grips his bow. The gods choose their champions and descend. They walk among mortals now, invisible but potent, nudging, whispering, stirring events. The world is their board, men their pieces. And now, the game nears its darkest turn. The sky blackens, the winds howl. Spears are readied, shields lifted. Achilles steps onto the field once more. This time there is no doubt. The Trojans see him and feel death in the air. The wrath of Achilles has returned. And beneath the thunder, a single name echoes. Sterient Hector. Close your eyes now, listener. The greatest duel of the age awaits. Shall I begin? Chapter Chi. Done duel with Hector. You, said Mordile. Shall I begin? Asterisk. Chapter Chi. Done duel with Hector. The earth seems to still beneath his feet. Achilles steps onto the battlefield, his armor gleaming like a second sun. The Myrmidons march behind him, silent, loyal, terrible in purpose. The Greeks erupt in cheers. The Trojans freeze. He is not a man now, but a storm walking. And that storm hungers for one name, Hector. A chill tears through the battlefield like a wildfire. Spears break, shields fall. Men scatter. He is merciless. No plea is heard, no retreat spared. Even the river, swollen with bodies, cries out to the gods. The Scamander River rises to drown him, but he fights the river too, and wins. The battlefield becomes a grave, and Achilles its silent judge. At last, Hector stands before the gates of Troy. Watching Achilles approach, he sees death in his eyes, not madness, but something worse, cold, clear wrath. Behind Hector, the gates are open. Priam begs his son to retreat. Hecuba wails from the walls, but Hector does not run. He is prince, protector, and prophecy. He tightens his grip on his sword. They circle, slow at first, like lions, cautious and proud. Then they clash, shield against shield, bronze upon bronze. The sound is thunder on stone. Sparks fly, dust rises. Time seems to hold its breath. Each blow is measured, each movement sacred. The duel is not just between men, it is between fate and resistance. No, Hector fights not to win, but to protect all behind him, his wife, his child, his city. He knows he faces a demigod, but he does not yield. His strikes are bold, his defense is steady. He bleeds, but does not falter. In this moment, he is no less than Achilles. In this moment, he is immortal, but the gods do not play fair. Athena, clad in illusion, appears beside Hector, disguised as his brother Deiphobus. She tells him to stand and fight, that he is not alone. Hector believes. He throws his spear and misses. He turns for another, but no brother stands behind him, only the wind and the truth. Achilles, seeing his chance, hurls his spear. It pierces Hector's armor, his own former armor, stolen from Patroclus, and strikes true. Hector falls, gasping. His blood darkens the dust. His limbs grow cold. Yet still he speaks. He asks that his body be returned to Troy, to his family. Achilles refuses. In rage, Achilles ties Hector's body to his chariot. He drives it around the walls of Troy again and again. The body drags through the dust and stone. Gasps echo from behind the battlements. Priam weeps. Hecuba screams. Andromache faints. Even the gods turn away. Even victory tastes bitter now. The gates stay shut, but the city mourns. Hector was more than a warrior. He was hope made flesh. His fall breaks more than hearts. It breaks spirit. Cassandra sings dirges to the wind. Children clutch at their mothers. The fires on altars burn low. Helen watches from her tower, her heart shivering. She knows she brought this storm, and knows there is still more to come. One night, led by Hermes through shadows, King Priam enters the Greek camp. He kneels before Achilles, kisses the hand that killed his son. He does not beg for revenge, only for mercy. Achilles, broken by grief, sees the father he will never be. He sees Patroclus. He sees himself. He returns Hector's body. The two men weep, not as enemies, but as fathers, as sons, as mortals. And for one night, war sleeps. Let your eyes close now. Peace is fleeting. But in this moment, it is real. The funeral of Patroclus. The Greek camp glows under a smoke-heavy sky. Achilles, solemn and still, lights the pyre. Flames rise like morning birds into the heavens. Patroclus is laid with armor, oil, and locks of hair from weeping comrades. Achilles sings to the dead, his voice cracked, soft, unfit for battle, and all of Greece listens. For this is not just a funeral, it is the funeral of love. Priam begs for Hector's body. Night falls. Inside the Greek camp, silence wraps the tents like shrouds. King Priam enters with trembling hands and tear-bright eyes. Achilles, the slayer of his son, stands before him. The old king bows low. Not for gold, not for pride, but for the right to bury his child. And Achilles, no longer flame, but ash, returns Hector's body. Two broken men share bread by firelight. Hector is honored in Troy. Troy gathers in solemn procession. Hector's body is washed with perfumes, wrapped in linen, kissed by mother, wife, and sister. His funeral pyre is the tallest the city has ever seen. Trumpets do not sound, only soft flutes. The people cry not for a prince, but for a future lost. Even the walls seem to mourn. The prophecy of Achilles' death, far away, in the depths of the sea, Thetis weeps. She knows what must come. Achilles has slain Hector, his fated rival, and now his own thread nears its end. A prophecy whispered at birth. He will live gloriously, but briefly, and the gods do not lie. His fate now waits in the hands of another. Paris and the poisoned arrow. Paris, soft of voice, swift of hand, does not fight like Hector. He is no hero of spear and shield, but Apollo guides his arrow. From the city walls he draws his bow. The shaft sings across the sky, kissed by godlight. It finds the heel, the only place the river Styx did not shield. Achilles falls, the battlefield hushes. Achilles crashes to the ground like a star extinguished. His armor gleams even in death. His eyes stare at the clouds, unblinking. He does not scream. He does not beg. His death is a silence that echoes louder than any war cry. The Greeks rush to him, but it is too late. Ajax and Odysseus contest his armor. Achilles is gone. His armor gleams like a throne with no king. Two warriors rise to claim it. Ajax, strongest of men, Odysseus, cleverest of minds, each speaks before the Greeks. Ajax pleads strength, Odysseus, cunning. The army chooses words over might. Odysseus is awarded the armor, and Ajax's heart begins to crack. Ajax's madness and fall, the rage blinds him. Ajax storms into the night, planning vengeance, but the gods intervene. Athena clouds his mind. In madness, he slaughters livestock, believing them to be his enemies. When the mist lifts, he sees only blood and shame. He plants his sword in the earth and falls upon it. Another hero lost, not to battle, but to pride. The Greeks despair. The camp mourns not just Achilles, but Ajax. Two giants, now gone. Their tents lie empty. Their voices echo in stories alone. Morale withers. The Trojans grow bolder. Hope flickers behind the gates of Ilium. Agamemnon prays. Menelaus curses. Odysseus plans. And the war, like an old beast, refuses to die. The gods demand a turning point. On Olympus, the gods watch. They see the blood, the broken oaths, the fallen names. They demand a shift. A whisper reaches Odysseus in his sleep. A vision of wood and deception, not bronze and brute force. The war must end not with force, but with a lie, and the horse begins to take shape in the dream. Close your eyes now. The next chapter is not of sword, but of shadow. The 10th year of war weighs heavy on both camps. Tents sag, soldiers limp. Even the gods grow silent. No new hero rises. No gate falls. The land itself seems tired of blood. Inside Troy, hope lingers like a candle in wind. Outside, the Greeks begin to wonder, is this city unconquerable? Odysseus watches. He does not think of swords, he thinks of stories. Odysseus and Epeius scheme. One night, by firelight, Odysseus speaks to Epeius, the carpenter, the silent builder, whose hands shape more than wood. We cannot break their walls, Odysseus says. We must break their belief. He draws in the sand. Not a sword, not a ship, but a horse. Epeius nods, already imagining the curves of deception. Athena's guidance. In a dream, Athena appears. Her voice is wind in leaves. Her eyes are battle and wisdom. She blesses the plan, not because she loves the Greeks, but because she honors cleverness. Let them think it is a gift, she whispers. Let them invite doom with open arms. Odysseus wakes. The vision lingers. The horse must be hollow. Building the horse, Epeius begins his work. Great timbers are dragged from forests, nails driven. Ribs of wood rise like the bones of a sleeping beast. It is massive, awe-inspiring. Part idol, part weapon. Inside, a hidden chamber. Room for warriors. Odysseus chooses them carefully. Silent men, brave men. They climb in as the final plank is set. Hiding the elite soldiers, the best among the Greeks, enter the belly of the beast. Odysseus, Menelaus, Neoptolemus, son of Achilles, they carry swords, but more importantly patience. Inside the wooden belly it is dark. Still, every breath is a gamble. They will not see daylight again unless the plan succeeds. Sinon volunteers for deception. Not all warriors carry spears. Sinon steps forward. A lesser-known soldier. A gifted liar. A man of stories. He will stay behind. Play the abandoned Greek, a deserter. His task is to convince Troy the horse is holy. A tribute, a gift to Athena. He memorizes every word. His tongue will do what 10 years of battle could not. The Greeks feign retreat. At dawn, the Greeks burn their tents. They board their ships, but not all ships sail far. Most hide behind islands, just beyond the horizon. To Troy, it looks like surrender. They leave behind only ashes and a towering wooden horse, a symbol, a question, a temptation. Trojan scouts find the horse. Trojans emerge cautiously. They search the empty beach, stunned. No ambush, no blood. And then they find it, the horse. It towers above them, magnificent and mysterious. No one knows what to make of it. Some warn of trickery. Others speak of divine omen. Then they find Sinon. Sinon's persuasive lies, bound in ropes. Sinon pleads for mercy. He weaves a tale. How the Greeks angered Athena. How the horse is an offering to soothe her wrath. How it was built too large to bring into Troy, so the city could not claim its protection. He weeps. He begs. He lies with grace, and the Trojans believe. The horse enters the city. After hours of debate, the gates open. The horse, dragged by hundreds, enters Troy. Troy. Trumpets sound. Children cheer. The priests bless it. Flowers are tossed beneath wooden hooves. Cassandra screams. Laocoon warns, but no one listens. As night falls, the horse stands in the city's heart, silent, watching. Inside, the soldiers wait. Close your eyes now, for Troy is dreaming, and in dreams, sometimes the danger lies within. Trojan celebration. Troy erupts in joy. After 10 long years, the enemy is gone. Bonfires crackle in the city squares. Cups of wine are raised. Musicians play. Dancers spin. The wooden horse stands in the heart of the city, towering above. The celebration, silent and motionless. No one sees it breathe. But it does, in the way a storm breathes. Drunken feasts and dancing. The palace glows with torchlight. Goblets overflow. Princes toast. Servants laugh. Paris walks beside Helen, bold and smug. Priam watches with cautious hope. The people are tired, but now they are jubilant. Dancers encircle the horse with garlands. Laughter fills the air like perfume, and within the horse, the soldiers do not move. They listen. Cassandra's cries ignored. High in her tower, Cassandra screams. Her vision is fire and falling stone. She sees blood at the gates. She sees the beast open its belly. She sees Troy weeping, but no one listens. They never have. She is cursed to see truth, but never to be believed. And so her cries become the wind. Laocoon's fate. Laocoon, priest of Poseidon, raises his voice. He warns of deceit, demands the horse be burned. Then the sea churns. 2 serpents, monstrous and coiling, rise from the depths and crush him and his sons. The people gasp. The gods have spoken, they say, but they read the sign wrong and seal their fate. The city sleeps one by one. Candles are snuffed out. The music fades. Doors close. Troy, Brave, proud Troy sinks into sleep. Only guards remain on the walls, yawning under moonlight. No one hears the creak of timber. No one sees the glint of a hidden sword. Inside the horse, Odysseus holds his breath. They wait for the signal. Sinon opens the horse. Under cover of stars, Sinon slips from the shadows. He finds the wooden belly cracks open. One by one, the Greek warriors descend, silent as cats, sharp as lightning. Odysseus, Menelaus, Neoptolemus, they spread through the city like a whisper before a scream. Greek warriors emerge from alleys and rooftops. The Greeks spill like shadows with knives. They strike the sentries, unlock the gates. Far beyond the walls, Agamemnon's ships return under nightfall, having waited just out of sight. The gates groan open, and the army enters. City gates are opened. The Greeks pour into Troy like floodwaters breaking a dam. Torches are lit. Fire leaps from rooftop to rooftop. By the time the first scream rises, it is already too late. The city does not wake to defense, it wakes to ruin. The Greek army returns. Agamemnon rides through the gates. Ajax, Diomedes, and others follow, blades slick with prophecy. Helen hides. Paris reaches for his bow. Priam grips his throne, and everywhere, fire consumes memory. The horse, still and hollow, watches as its gift is unwrapped. Troy begins to burn, the city blazes, stone cracks. Statues fall, mothers wail. Blood runs with the wine spilled just hours before. This is no battle. This is the end. The age of Troy ends not with honor, but with a trick. A wooden whisper in a city of bronze. Sleep now, listener, for next we walk through ashes, into sorrow, and into legend. Troy wakes to fire and screams. Dawn never comes. Troy awakens not to birdsong but to smoke. Fires crackle across rooftops. Screams tear through alleys. Swords glint in the morning haze. Mothers clutch their children. Fathers search for weapons. But the enemy is already inside. The city, ancient and beloved, is bleeding. Greeks surge through the streets. The Greek army spills through every street like wildfire. No door is spared. No corner left untouched. Troy, once unconquered, is now an open wound. Odysseus moves with grim purpose. Menelaus seeks Helen. Neoptolemus, young and furious, hunts shadows. From temples to taverns, everything falls. Even the statues weep. Priam's last stand in the palace. In the heart of the palace, King Priam sits on the cold stone steps of an altar. He does not run. He does not beg. He waits for mercy, for memory, for something beyond flame. But Neoptolemus finds him, and the son of Achilles does what his father could not. He cuts down the king before the eyes of the gods. Neoptolemus kills the king. It is not a duel, it is an execution. Neoptolemus, wild and unrepentant, spills royal blood across sacred ground. Priam, who once ruled an empire, dies with no sword in hand. A moment later, the temple shudders. The gods, silent for too long, do not speak. They simply watch. Andromache and Astyanax's fate. Elsewhere, Hector's wife, Andromache, is seized. Her child, Astyanax, clings to her dress. The Greeks fear the boy. He is Hector's blood, a future threat. The child is taken from her arms. Thuna from the walls, Andromache does not scream. She has no breath left for horror. Helen seeks sanctuary. In a quiet corner of the palace, Helen wraps herself in white linen. She walks through the chaos like a ghost untouched. Soldiers lower their swords. Some stare in awe. others in rage. She goes to the temple of Aphrodite to wait for judgment. Menelaus finds her. Menelaus enters the temple, his sword drawn, his hands shaking. Helen turns slowly. Their eyes meet across 10 years and 10,000 dead. He raises the blade but cannot strike. She speaks his name, and just like that, the blade lowers. Love, like war, is never simple. Odysseus and sacred theft. In the citadel, Odysseus finds what he came for, the Palladium, Troy's sacred statue. It is said to protect the city so long as it stands. He takes it without reverence. Even victory demands theft. Even peace is born of desecration. Athena's wrath begins to stir. High on Olympus, Athena watches the city burn and frowns. The Greeks were her chosen, but not her faithful. They have sacked temples, killed innocents, spilled blood on altars. She turns away. And with that gesture, the seeds of Greek tragedy begin to sprout. Dawn over the ruins of Troy. By morning, the fires smolder. Troy, once proud and shining, is now ash and shadow. Its towers lie in ruin. Its people are chained or slain. A silence settles. Not peace, but aftermath. The wooden horse, broken. Lies forgotten. The gods depart, but the story remains, and so do we. Close your eyes now, for next, we walk among the survivors and the broken hearts left behind. Helen confronts Menelaus. Smoke still curls above Troy's ashes as Helen stands before her husband. Menelaus, warrior and betrayed king, stares into the eyes that once led him to war. She does not plead. She does not bow. Her gaze is clear, regretful, proud, and tired. 10 years of history hang between them. Neither speaks, but something unspoken begins to soften in his face. Trial of beauty and betrayal. The Greek army gathers outside the ruined palace. Helen stands before them, a goddess among ghosts. Some shout for justice, others for mercy. Agamemnon watches with calculation, Odysseus with caution. No blade is drawn, but the tension is sharp. Menelaus steps forward. I brought her for love, he says, and I take her back for peace. It is not forgiveness, but it is a beginning. Menelaus spares her. In the privacy of his tent, Menelaus removes his sword and lays it aside. Helen removes her veil. They do not speak of Paris. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. There is too much in the silence already. And in that silence, they choose not to hate. Greeks prepare to sail. With Troy fallen, the Greeks begin their return. The ships are repaired. Loot is counted. Prisoners are divided. Temples are looted one last time. Some rejoice. Some mourn. All are changed. Their victory is heavy, quiet, and stained. The wind begins to rise. Hecuba's grief, Queen Hecuba, mother of many princes, sits in the dust of her ruined throne room. She has no crown now, only memories. Her sons are gone. Her city burned. Her name survives only as a warning. She looks at the sea and sees no gods, only waves. Cassandra taken captive. The Greeks seize Cassandra from the temple of Apollo, dragging her from sacred ground. She bites, kicks, screams, her eyes wild with visions. She knows what awaits her. Chains, ships, more silence. She curses the gods, curses the Greeks, curses time itself, but none can stop what has already begun. Trojan women mourn in the remains of Troy's courtyard. The women gather. They sing songs of the past, of weddings, of harvests, of sons once held at the breast. They sing not for joy, but for memory. Their voices rise like smoke, curling around fallen statues. They are widows, slaves, orphans, but they remember. The gods whisper consequences. On Olympus, the gods murmur. Athena turns her back. Apollo seethes. Poseidon stirs the sea. They know what mortals do not. The war is not over. Its cost has only begun. Curses awaken. Storms are summoned. Ships will sink. Kings will fall, and the horse was only the beginning. The sea beckons. The Greek ships line the shore like exhausted beasts. Helen stands at the edge of the water, staring into the horizon. Menelaus waits beside her. The wind smells not of roses, but of salt and endings. Troy fades behind them, not as a place, but as a wound. Helen boards the ship to Sparta. She steps onto the ship. She does not look back. Behind her lie fire, betrayal, and legend. Ahead, only uncertainty. Will Sparta welcome her? Will she be remembered as a queen or as a curse? The sails rise, and the tide carries her home. Sleep now, dear listener, for soon we follow the warriors as they return across unforgiving waters. Zeus's judgment from Olympus. From the highest throne of Olympus, Zeus gazes down upon the smoldering ruins of Troy. He sees the broken walls, the fallen kings, the weeping widows, the shattered temples, and he says nothing. This was not his war. He allowed it, but he did not stop it. Now, even the king of gods feels the weight of what has passed. Athena's anger at sacrilege. Athena walks among the ashes. In silence, her temples were defiled, her offerings stolen, her name invoked and dishonored. She who once blessed the Greeks now turns cold. Their victory is stained with pride and sacrilege. She vows punishment, not with thunder, but with fate. Poseidon churns the sea, the god of the deep, once a builder of Troy's very walls, roars beneath the waves. The Greeks have insulted the earth and sky alike. He stirs the oceans. He summons storms. He prepares to sink their ships one by one. Their journey home will be no victory march. It will be a reckoning. Apollo mourns Troy's fall. In the quiet corners of Olympus, Apollo plays a dirge on his lyre. His melodies rise like smoke over Troy's ruins. He favored the Trojans, not for politics, but for their poetry, their piety. Now their city is gone, their music silenced. He sings for Priam, for Hector, for Cassandra, and the notes echo across eternity. Aphrodite protects Aeneas. One Trojan lives, not by chance but by will. Aeneas, cousin of Hector, escapes with his father and son, led through fire by Aphrodite's guiding hand. He does not look back. He carries a sword, a handful of gods, and a dream of something yet to come. Aeneas is not just a survivor. He is destiny reborn. The gods begin to abandon men. One by one, the gods retreat. They were once voices in the wind, thunder in battle, whispers in dreams. Now they fade. Olympus grows quieter, not because they are gone, but because they are tired. Men now make their own choices and suffer their own consequences. Olympus fades into distance. High above, the clouds grow thick, the golden palaces dim. What was once vivid becomes myth. What was once real becomes story. The gods are still there, but less present, less seen. The age of mortals is dawning, and with it, a silence between heaven and earth. Mortal suffering begins anew. As the gods retreat, the mortals remain, in ashes, in chains, in sorrow. Troy is gone, but the pain is not. Mothers bury sons. Fathers build empty shrines. The sea takes more lives than war ever did. Peace, when it comes, is not gentle. Prophecies drift on the wind. In distant temples, seers whisper, fading visions. They speak of Rome, of empires shaped by survivors. They speak of Helen's descendants, of bloodlines that will rule, rebel, and return. The gods no longer speak aloud, but their echoes linger in prophecy. Silence above the burning city. Troy no longer burns. It smolders. Its bones are buried beneath dust and time. Its towers sleep beneath centuries. No god remains to guard it. Only memory, only myth, only the wind. Close your eyes now, listener. The gods have left the stage, but the mortals have much further yet to fall. Farewells at the shore. The beach at Troy is quiet now, littered with broken shields and ghostly memories. Odysseus stands at the shore, his ship ready. The wind touches his cloak. His men wait, their eyes turned westward. He says nothing to the ruins behind him. There is nothing left to say. With one last glance he boards, and the sea opens like a forgotten book. Odysseus prays to Athena. At night, beneath stars cold and clear, Odysseus kneels at the prow and whispers to Athena. She does not answer. The goddess who once stood by him now watches from afar. His prayers drift with the tide, unanswered, but not unheard. Some journeys must begin in silence. A cursed journey begins. Odysseus's ship slips into unfamiliar currents. The sea is restless. The sky broods. The men mutter of omens and ill winds. Odysseus smiles. But it is not a smile of ease. He knows the gods still linger. He knows the journey will test more than courage. It will test the soul. The first islands stop. A lush island appears on the horizon. Gentle waves, sweet fruit, whispering winds. But beauty, as always, is not what it seems. The island is too quiet, the air too still. Odysseus sends scouts ashore, only half return, and one returns mad. Versus distant call. Far across the sea, a song curls through the mist. Circe, sorceress, daughter of Helios, sings to the waves. She waits on an island thick with shadows, preparing charms and choosing herbs. She sees a ship in her dreams, and a man with clever eyes. Soon, she thinks, ghostly, voices of fallen friends. As the ship glides into deeper waters, the men hear voices, soft, familiar. Achilles, one whispers. Patroclus, says another. Even Ajax, even Hector, drift upon the wind. The dead are restless. Or perhaps memory is heavier than the sea. Odysseus listens and remembers. Storm breaks from Poseidon. Poseidon has not forgotten. He churns the ocean into fury, slamming waves against the vessel. Lightning dances along the mast. The men cry out. Some pray, some curse. Odysseus ties himself to the helm. He will not let the sea claim him. Not yet. Compass lost, fate stirred. After the storm, all is calm, but directionless. Their maps are soaked, their compass gone. The stars offer no answers. Odysseus stands at the edge of the deck, scanning the horizon. This is not wandering, he tells himself. It is a test. Crew's morale breaks. Food runs thin. The men quarrel. Their eyes turn inward, dark with suspicion. Some speak of turning back. But back to what? Others stare at Odysseus, wondering if he knows where he leads them. He does not, but he will not say so. The long return begins. The ship drifts into another sunset, another chapter. Troy is far behind. Ithaca is further still. But Odysseus grips the tiller. He has fought gods. He has outwitted kings. Now he must outlast the sea and himself. Close your eyes now, for next we follow another survivor. Not one who returns home, but one who must build a new one. Aeneas gathers survivors, When the fires rose, Aeneas did not flee. He moved through smoke like a phantom, finding those still breathing. Soldiers, servants, children. He spoke not of revenge, only of escape, of preservation. In his arms he carried his father, Anchises. At his side his son, Ascanius. And on his shoulders he bore the weight of what Troy could become. Anchises' burden. Anchises was once a man of great pride, now frail with age and wisdom. He did not wish to leave, but a sign, a blazing star streaking across the sky, convinced him. The old man was lifted onto Aeneas's back, and so the bloodline of Troy began its flight. Backwards glance, forward march, Troy in ruins behind them. As they reach the edge of the city, the sky turns red, the towers crumble behind them. The screams fade into smoke. Aeneas stops once to look back, but only once. He knows what must be left behind. He turns again toward the rising sun, and does not stop. Visions of future Rome. In his dreams, the gods show him visions. A great city, marble roads, golden temples, a people mighty and disciplined. A voice says, "This is your destiny. Not now, but someday." He wakes with tears, not of fear, but of purpose. Divine guidance from Aphrodite. Aphrodite, his mother, watches from the mist. She sends whispers to guide him, breezes that turn sails, signs carved in driftwood, birds that circle at just the right time. Her love is subtle, but constant. She does not stop the storm, but she keeps him afloat. Searching for a new homeland, they sail from island to island, seeking a place to plant roots. Crete, Delos, Epirus. Each welcomes, then rejects. The earth trembles. The oracles whisper, "Not here." And so they move on, never resting long, always hoping the next shore is the one. Battles across the Aegean. Even among the exiled, there is conflict. Rogue kings challenge Aeneas. Monsters rise from caves. Jealous spirits stir trouble. He draws his sword when he must, but always with reluctance. He is not a conqueror. He is a carrier of flame. Carthage and Dido's love. At last, they find refuge in Carthage, ruled by Queen Dido, beautiful and fierce. She welcomes Aeneas, offers him peace, offers him love. For a time he accepts, but destiny is jealous, and dreams cannot be moored forever. Aeneas's duty over desire. In the still of night, Hermes visits. He reminds Aeneas, "You are not meant to rest. You are meant to build." Aeneas's heart cracks. He leaves Carthage silently. Dido watches the sails fade and builds her pyre. Aeneas does not turn back. Some hearts must be broken to keep destiny whole. Westward sails, toward destiny, beyond the setting sun. Aeneas sails once more, through storms and loss, through prophecy and pain, toward Italy, toward empire, toward myth. The last child of Troy carries not just memory, but the seed of something far greater. Sleep now, dreamer, for next we follow the son of Achilles, and see what becomes of legacy stained in fire. Ere Achilles' legacy, Neoptolemus, was born far from Troy, in the quiet corners of the Greek world, but he was never meant for peace. When Achilles fell, the Greeks called for his son. He came to war as a boy, and became a name remembered in dread. They called him Pyrrhus, fire-haired, a child forged in his father's shadow. Brutality of youth in war. He did not fight like Achilles. He fought like something colder. Neoptolemus struck not with poetry, but precision. He did not weep. He did not spare. Priam, Astyanax, the temple steps, his sword left no doubt. only silence. Some called him cruel, but others called him necessary. Relationship with Andromache. After Troy's fall, Neoptolemus took Andromache, Hector's widow, as a captive, but he did not treat her as spoils. Over time, something shifted. Respect. Perhaps something softer. She too had lost everything. And he, though victorious, was still hollow. Together, they lived not as lovers, but as ghosts who recognized each other. Dreams haunted by Hector. At night, Neoptolemus sees Hector in his dreams, not as an enemy, not even as a rival, but as the father of the child he killed, the husband of the woman he stole, the man who had once defended his city with honor. Neoptolemus wakes with sweat. Victory is not always sleep. Journey homeward, he leaves Troy with ships full of spoils, silence, and souls. The sea does not greet him kindly. Poseidon remembers. Athena broods, and Neoptolemus finds that the hardest battles are fought after the war. One does not outrun a father's legend. Oracle's warning. In Delphi, he consults the oracle. She tells him, "You will found kingdoms, but not peace. You will be great, but not kind. You will fall not in battle, but in blood." He smiles without joy. Even fate cannot surprise him anymore. Fate and free will. Neoptolemus builds a kingdom in Epirus. He marries. He rules. He trains warriors, but he walks with shadows. He tries to shape a new life. But when your name was born in fire and slaughter, peace feels like borrowed cloth. It never fits quite right. Pyrrhus founds a kingdom. The people call him a king, a founder, a hero. He builds temples, hosts games, honors the gods, yet whispers follow him. Of Troy, of Priam, of blood on altar stones. To some, he is a savior. To others, a warning. Guilt of his father's wrath, he often visits shrines to Achilles. Not to pray, but to question, "Was I like you, father, or was I worse? Did I honor you, or betray you with every blade I drew?" The statues do not answer. They never do. His end foretold in the temple of Apollo. Far from the battlefield, Neoptolemus meets his end, not by sword, but by ambush. His killer is Orestes, avenging a political slight. And so, Achilles' line ends not in war, but in palace intrigue. Greatness, it seems, does not protect against mortality. Sleep gently now, for next we drift into memory, into the voices of the dead who still walk among us.
Hauntings in the ruins, the fires are long gone, but when the wind moves just right across the shattered stones of Troy, it carries whispers. They are not birds, not wind. They are the voices of the dead. Some say the city still remembers, still speaks, still weeps. Cassandra's spirit wanders, Cassandra's spirit walks the halls of the ruined temple, barefoot and unseen. She touches broken altars, whispers to empty statues. No longer cursed, she speaks freely, but no one remains to hear her. She drifts on, seeking something even she cannot name. Hector's silent watch. On the walls that still stand, Hector's ghost keeps watch, not as a soldier, not as a prince, but as a memory of what honor once looked like. His shield is gone, his voice silent, but in the cracks of stone and sky, he remains, the wail of Trojan mothers. When the moon is high, the wail returns. It is not one voice, but many. The sound of 1,000 mothers who lost sons, daughters, homes. They echo through time, through stone, through song. Not even the sea can drown their sorrow. Ghosts speak to the stars. The ghosts rise not to scare, but to remember. They speak to the stars of children never born, of dances never danced, of gates that should have held. The stars do not answer, but they blink gently, as if listening. Aeneas hears them in dreams. Far away, Aeneas dreams of Troy. In sleep, he walks her streets again, whole, alive, golden. But the faces he passes are not living. They are the dead. They whisper encouragement, warnings, forgiveness. He wakes with tears and sails on. Troy never forgotten. Even as new cities rise and new wars are fought, the name Troy lingers. It appears in scrolls and songs and sighs, a word of pride, of ruin, of beauty and blood. Troy did not vanish, it became legend, the city beneath ash. Beneath layers of earth, dust, and centuries, the bones of Troy sleep. Archaeologists will come, dig, question. They will find pottery, walls, ashes. But they will not find peace, for peace does not grow in the soil of betrayal, echoes in the wind. A breeze stirs the open plain where the horse once stood. It carries names, faces, moments, Paris and Helen's first glance. Achilles' cry of rage, Priam's silent tears. They pass through time not as history, but as haunting. Time buries the past, and yet the world moves on. New empires rise, the names change, the gods grow quiet, but in the stillness of night, if you listen closely, you may hear a footstep on stone, a whisper on air, a story trying not to be forgotten. The ghosts of Troy do not seek revenge, only remembrance. Close your eyes now. For in the next chapter, we return to the land of the living to see what the victors truly gained and what they lost.
Greek kings return home, one by one. The kings set sail. Agamemnon, Menelaus, Odysseus, Nestor, Diomedes, each with ships heavy with spoils and hearts heavier still. They had won, but not cleanly, not kindly. The sea is wide and the gods are watching. They do not return as they left. Agamemnon's cursed return. Agamemnon lands in Mycenae with a crown of ash and a captive queen, Cassandra. He enters his halls not to applause, but to quiet vengeance. Clytemnestra, his wife, has not forgotten the daughter he sacrificed. That night, as he bathes, she strikes, and Troy's conqueror falls, slain not by spear, but by home. Clytemnestra's vengeance, she does not tremble, her hands are red, her eyes unblinking. Cassandra lies beside Agamemnon, prophecy fulfilled. The walls of Mycenae drink the blood of kings, and in this act, the war truly ends, not in Ilium, but in a marriage bed, Odysseus's wandering. Odysseus does not return swiftly. Poseidon's wrath sends him across strange islands, to monsters and enchantresses. His journey becomes its own epic, full of lies, love, and loneliness. For 10 years, he drifts. Victory means little when home is always one more storm away. Menelaus's haunted eyes. Menelaus sails with Helen beside him. The war was for her, the cost beyond counting. She is beautiful, unaged, untouched by ruin, and yet, between them, silence. He looks at her and sees ships, corpses, a hollow horse. He loves her still, but he also fears her. Ajax's blood on the ground, before his madness, before his fall, Ajax had been pure strength. Now his name is spoken with sadness. No statue is raised, no songs are sung, only quiet shame. Strength without wisdom leads not to glory, debts, but to self-destruction. The gods demand payment. Victory has a cost. The gods collect it, coin by coin, soul by soul. Storms drag ships down. Cities fall to civil strife. Heroes go mad or vanish. The Greeks returned with treasures, but lost themselves in the exchange. Athena's judgment. Athena, once protector of the Greeks, becomes their punisher. She sees her temples defiled, her wisdom ignored, and she turns her blessings into curses. For those who forget the gods in victory, the gods remember in wrath. No hero escapes unscathed. Nestor grows old in Pylos, but his stories are weighted with grief. Diomedes is exiled. Agamemnon is murdered. Odysseus wanders. Menelaus endures. None are whole. None are free. This is the price the Greeks pay, not in Troy, but in their own homes. Peace never returns. There is no triumphant feast, no clear ending, only time and memory, and the long, slow fading of glory. The heroes become old men. or names on urns, or tales whispered by fireside. Troy burned, but so did they. Sleep now, gentle soul. The war is over, but the story has only just begun its journey. Through time, the myth spreads, bards sing in the markets. Long after the ashes cooled, bards began to sing. In the markets of Athens, on the islands of the Aegean, in the hills of Asia Minor, their voices rose. They did not speak of politics. They sang of Hector's bravery, of Achilles' wrath, of Helen's beauty. Troy lived, no longer in stone, but in story. Homer's voice emerges. From the lips of one blind poet came the Iliad and the Odyssey. Homer, they say, no one knows if he was one man or many. But his words were fire and honey. He made the heroes immortal. Not with bronze, but with verse. The war became poetry, and poetry became truth. Scrolls in Alexandria. In the vast libraries of Alexandria, the tales were written down. Scribes copied Homer's lines onto papyrus. Scholars argued meanings. Lines were translated, expanded, revered. Troy, now lost beneath earth, was preserved in ink. What the sword had buried, the quill unearthed. Sculptures and murals appear across the Mediterranean. Artists painted the moment Helen left Sparta, the building of the horse, the duel of Hector and Achilles. Statues rose in city squares. Even emperors wept at the sight of Priam, begging for his son. Troy was no longer a city. It was an image, temples to heroes. Temples were built not just for gods, but for mortals now legendary: Achilles, Odysseus, Ajax. Their shrines drew pilgrims. Offerings were laid at feet of stone warriors. People prayed, not for war, but for bravery, for strength, for clarity, for grace in grief. The tale immortalized. Teachers taught the tale to students, mothers to children, travelers to strangers. The Trojan War became a thread in every tapestry, a line in every play. Kings traced their bloodlines back to Troy. Nations claimed ancestry. Myths merged with memory. History blurred. Troy becomes legend. As generations passed, Troy became less a place and more a mirror, a lesson, a warning, a dream. The horse became a symbol. Helen, a question. Achilles, a flame that burns even when gone. Troy no longer needed to be found. It had already been found. In every corner of human longing, the line between fact and myth. Was there ever really a wooden horse? Did Paris exist? Did 1,000 ships truly sail? Scholars debate, but children do not care. They believe, and perhaps that belief is all the story ever needed. Children listen by firelight. In quiet villages and marble courts alike, the tale is retold. A father lifts his son into his lap and says, "Prittle, let me tell you about Troy." The child's eyes widen, and the flame flickers, and the voices of ancient warriors stir once more. Time makes it sacred. With each century, the story grows, not colder, but deeper. More than a war, more than a trick, more than a love, it becomes myth, and myth becomes sacred. Close your eyes, listener, for the next chapter is not about Troy's past, but about its rediscovery. Troy reborn. Archaeologists dig ancient soil. Centuries pass. Civilizations rise and fall, and somewhere beneath the fields of northwestern Anatolia, a city sleeps. In the 12th century, curious men and women come with maps and dreams. They carry no swords, only brushes and notebooks, and with each layer of earth removed, echoes awaken. Heinrich Schliemann's dream. Heinrich Schliemann, a German businessman turned dreamer, reads Homer not as poetry, but as truth. He believes Troy is real, and he intends to find it. Locals laugh, scholars doubt, but Schliemann begins to dig, and what he finds is stone, ruins, beneath hills of dust. Schliemann discovers not one Troy, but many cities built upon cities. Troy Ein, Troy II, Troy VI, each generation built atop the last, like memory stacked upon memory. The ground itself becomes a history book, torn, relu, written, real. A buried city awakens, walls emerge, massive, ancient, scorched, pottery, tools, spears, jewels too. He calls them Priam's treasure. Though likely older, the name sticks, for once again, a city of bronze is on every tongue. Troy has returned, not in glory, but in dust, and in wonder. Echoes of the past uncovered. As archaeologists clear chambers and catalog bones, they find more than objects, they find questions. How close was Homer's story to truth? Was there truly a siege? A trick? A war? The echoes do not answer, but they murmur. Walls, ashes, weapons revealed. Every stone tells a tale. This one cracked by fire, that one blackened by siege. They find arrowheads, skeletons, collapsed towers. Someone fought here, someone died here, someone believed it was worth remembering. Myth becomes memory. The poems once thought pure fiction begin to blur with fact. Troy was real. The war, perhaps, the horse, a metaphor, a possibility. But does it matter? What matters is the story never left us. Even buried, it lived. Dust of Achilles' path, tourists walk the ancient stones now, where perhaps Achilles ran, where Hector stood, where Helen wept. The wind sighs through broken walls. Not all ruins are sad, some are sacred. A horse carved in stone. Outside the site stands a wooden horse replica, tall, hollow, symbolic. Children climb inside and laugh. Parents take pictures. Historians sigh. It is not the real horse, but it is the real idea. And sometimes that is more powerful. Troy stands again, not in defiance, not in war, but in memory, in scholarship. In story, the walls may be broken, but the name stands tall. Troy was never truly lost. It simply waited to be found. Close your eyes now. What war does to stories, wars end. But their stories do not. They are retold, reframed, reimagined. What began as a siege becomes a song. What started as fire becomes ink. The pain remains, but in a different shape. And every time a tale is told, it changes slightly, becoming more than truth, or less. Heroism versus horror. Achilles, swift and mighty. Hector, noble and doomed. Odysseus, cunning and cool. Their names shine, but behind every hero is horror. Villages burned, mothers weeping, children lost in smoke. The language of war turns fear into bravery. But in the quiet, we remember both. The psychology of siege, 10 years behind a wall, 10 years outside it, inside, dread. Rationed grain, hope slowly cracking. Outside, boredom, bitterness. A horizon that never changes. Siege is not just a tactic, it is a test of the mind, and only those who endure its silence become myth. Cultural memory of Troy. Troy lives in many tongues. To the Greeks, it was victory. To the Romans, ancestry. To modern scholars, a mystery. But to all, it is a mirror. A place where love clashed with power, where beauty sparked destruction, where the line between justice and vengeance blurred. Troy is not just a city. It is a question. Who tells the story? Homer sang it first, but others followed, each added, subtracted, revised. Some told it from the Greeks' view, others from Troy, but what of the women? The servants? The nameless? In every war, some stories go untold, and those silences speak loudest of all. The Trojan perspective. To Troy, the horse was not clever. It was catastrophic. Helen was not temptation. She was ruin. The Greeks were not gods. They were thunder without reason. Yet the story we hear most is not theirs. And yet, their walls still whisper, women's voices in myth: Cassandra, Andromache, Hecuba, Helen. They watched heroes die, raised children in shadows, carried burdens too heavy for song. They wept, they warned, they endured. In later years, poets began to hear them, and history softened its tone, if only briefly. The silence of survivors. When the last fires died, and the ships sailed home, the ones left behind sat in the rubble. They did not sing, they rebuilt, they remembered in silence. Not all stories are loud. Some are kept like coals in the hand, burning quietly for a lifetime. Eternal recurrence of conflict. Troy was not the first war. It will not be the last. Every age finds its own horse, its own walls, its own beauty to blame. But if we listen, really listen, we might find not just pattern, dips, but warning. Myth is a mirror. In the end, Troy tells us about ourselves, our pride, our love, our rage, our ability to destroy what we desire most, and our need, always, to make sense of it. So we tell stories, not to glorify war, but to survive it. Close your eyes now. In the next chapter, we return to the builders, not of walls, but of deception. We revisit the horse itself, engineering of the wooden horse. The Greeks had built ships, siege towers, and walls, but this was something else. Crafted from timbers of sacred forests. The horse was enormous, tall as a gatehouse, wide as a room. Its belly was hollow, its flanks sealed tight. It was both art and weapon, an offering and a lie. Strategic deception. They could not win with swords, so they chose something older than battle-barren story. Let them believe it's a gift, said Odysseus. Make them want to bring it inside, and that desire would destroy them. Victory, hidden in reverence, Epeius's skill. Epeius was not a warrior, not a king. He did not seek glory, but he built the horse, with chisels, with sweat, with silence. No poems were written of him, but without his hands, Troy might still stand. Even legends and carpenters, naval distraction. As the horse stood on shore, the Greeks boarded ships and vanished beyond the horizon. Or so it seemed. They waited just out of sight, behind islands, behind fog. It was not retreat. It was misdirection. The stage was set, the curtain drawn, psychological warfare. The horse played on the Trojan heart. They wanted peace. They wanted meaning. They wanted something left to believe in. The horse gave them all three. Even those who doubted were silenced. Not by threats, but by hope. Deception thrives where desperation lives. Gift-giving and honor in ancient custom. Refusing a gift from the gods or a defeated enemy was dangerous. Trojans debated, burn it, leave it, accept it, but honor demanded action, and honor, once manipulated, becomes a key. The horse did not force entry, it was invited. Trojan beliefs exploited. The Greeks had watched, they had listened, they knew Troy's myths, its prophecies, its fears. They crafted the horse not just from wood, but from the Trojan soul. The trick worked because it fit the story Troy already believed. Timing of infiltration. The night was chosen with care, a feast, a celebration. Relief washed over the city, and while joy-clouded eyes Odysseus waited inside the wooden belly, he held his breath, listened to laughter, and counted down the hours until the gates would fall. Nightfall and execution. At midnight Sinon moved. He opened the horse from beneath. One by one warriors slipped out, silent, barefoot, blades ready. They did not shout, did not cheer, only action, only purpose. One hinge, one door, one lie, and the world turned. Now war changed forever. Before the horse, wars were fought face to face. After the horse, trust became fragile. Strategy became deception. Siege became subversion. The horse was not just a tactic, it was the birth of modern war. Close your eyes now. The next chapter brings us into the hearts of those who suffered most. Not warriors, but women. Helen's perspective, she was the spark, but not the fire. Helen, daughter of Zeus, stood between gods and kings, blamed for it all. She did not launch the ships, she did not build the horse, but the world watched her, wanted her, judged her. In her eyes was regret. In her silence, survival. Cassandra's curse. Cassandra, daughter of Priam, saw the end long before it came. She warned, she wept, she screamed, but the gods had cursed her. Her truth would never be believed. When the horse entered, she tore her hair. When the city fell, she laughed through tears. She was not mad. She was unheard. Andromache's tragedy, wife of Hector, mother of Astyanax, she lost everything. Her husband dragged by chariot, her child thrown from towers, her city in flames, and yet she endured. Taken captive by Achilles' son, she lived on, not to forget, but to remember. Hecuba's leadership, the queen of Troy, did not flee. Hecuba, matriarch of loss, gathered the women after the fall. She led prayers, she wrapped the dead. She faced Greek generals with dignity. Even in chains, she was royal, her crown replaced by ash, her power undimmed. Polyxena's sacrifice, youngest daughter of Priam. She was taken to the tomb of Achilles, told she would be his bride in death. She did not beg. She stood tall, silent, her last breath defiant. In her passing, Troy's last light flickered, but did not vanish. Survival amid loss. The women of Troy became spoils, prizes for Greek generals, but they were more than trophies. They adapted, they endured, they told stories to their children in foreign lands. They remembered the names of gods, of rivers, of ruined gates. They carried Troy in their hearts, female slaves of war. They ground grain, drew water, raised children not their own. Their suffering had no songs, no scrolls, but it was real and lasting, and in quiet corners they found ways to resist, through memory, through motherhood, through whispers. What remains of their voices? For centuries their names were footnotes, but later poets found them. Euripides, Ovid, modern scholars, they gave voice to those who were once voiceless, and now their stories stand beside the warriors. Not as shadows, but as equals, daughters of a lost city. They were not soldiers, but they bore the weight of war in dreams, in grief, in songs whispered to sleeping infants. They kept Troy alive, not in flame, but in feeling. They were its breath, long after its bones turned to dust. Feminine resilience. Where swords fell silent, they spoke. Where walls crumbled, they stood. The women of Troy were not only survivors, they were storytellers, historians, healers. And in the hush of night, if you listen, you may hear their lullaby still echoing. Sleep now, traveler. The trickster archetype, Odysseus is not a brute. He is a whisper, a turn of phrase, a smile that hides a blade. He is the trickster, the hero who lies well, who thinks fast, who turns war into a riddle. Where others charge, he plans. Where others fall, he endures. Genius and guile. He spoke to kings with reverence, to peasants with ease, to enemies with charm. Odysseus knew how to listen, and more importantly, how to be underestimated. He was not the strongest, but he was always the last one standing. Moral ambiguity. Was he a hero, a liar, a savior, a manipulator? Even his closest allies could not say. He built the horse. He tricked the Trojans, and he walked away while others burned. The line between brilliance and cruelty is often drawn in sand, and waves wash it away. Burden of decisions. Every lie weighed on him. He remembered each death that followed his words. He mourned those who trusted him. He wondered if there could have been another way. But war leaves little room for clean choices, and his burden was survival. How he changes the war. Without Odysseus, Troy stands. It was his idea that opened the gates, his voice that convinced others, his patience that kept the plan secret. He did not just fight in the war, he changed its shape forever. Lonely heroism in victory. Odysseus did not bask. He walked among burning walls. He heard the cries. He took no trophy. Even in triumph, he felt apart. The clever are often alone. Not for lack of love, but because no one truly. The invention of the horse. It came to him not as glory, but as necessity. They could not scale the walls, could not break the gates, could not wait forever. So he crafted a lie, shaped like a gift filled with blades. The horse was not cleverness, it was desperation with polish. His lies and their truths. Odysseus's lies often held truth, but twisted, to survive, to win, to save others. He lied to escape monsters, lied to escape death, lied to bring his men home, but each untruth left a scar, and in the end he wore them all. The cunning curse. Genius is not always a blessing. Odysseus's mind became his cage. Each new plan required another. Each solution birthed a new problem. Even when he reached home, he could not rest. Because a clever man never stops thinking, even when he wants to. Man versus conscience. He was not a god. He was not flawless. He doubted, he wept, he questioned. And in the end, what made Odysseus powerful was not his mind, but his will. To keep going, to find home, to forgive himself. Rest now, listener. Historical Troy. Beneath the fields of modern-day Turkey lies stone upon stone. Layered, scorched, silent. Troy existed. Not as golden as Homer dreamed, perhaps, but real. A city with gates, with towers, with battles. Not a fantasy, a foundation. Bronze Age warfare. In the 7th century BCE, kingdoms fought with spears and fire. Cities were small but powerful, their walls thick, their kings proud. Sieges could last months or years. In that world, a war like Troy's was possible, maybe even likely. Seafaring Greeks. The Greeks of the Bronze Age were not isolated. They sailed far, trading, raiding, settling. Troy sat near a vital waterway. Control of that gate could mean wealth or war. So the story begins to make sense, not from love, but from strategy, trade routes, and conflict. Troy was more than a city. It was a checkpoint between East and West. Mycenaean Greeks had reason to covet it. The spoils, the control, the access to silver, gold, and stories. Sometimes wars begin not with insult, but with envy. Mythologizing real events fade. But in their place we build stories. A siege becomes a saga. A raid becomes prophecy. A skirmish becomes a 10-year War. Memory bends, not to deceive, but to carry weight, to make grief beautiful. Literary evolution. The tale of Troy changed with every telling. Bards added scenes, poets added speeches, playwrights filled in gaps. 'Cause each version reflected its age. Homer shaped the war, Virgil reimagined it, Euripides gave the women voices. The truth grew not smaller but richer. Oral tradition's power. For centuries the story was not written, it was sung, repeated, shared under starlight and beside fire. Oral tradition does not need ink, it needs rhythm, memory, soul. And so the tale lived, through lips and hearts, long before parchment. The Trojan horse as metaphor. Was there a real horse? Maybe, maybe not. It may have been a siege tower, a disguised force, a collapsed gate, or it may have been purely symbolic, a warning that what we welcome may be what undoes us. Archaeology and legend, excavations have revealed fire, weapons, collapse. But no inscription reads, "Here fell Troy by horse." The facts are partial, the truth fragmented, yet still the myth points towards something real, a feeling, a loss, a legend carved from grief. Truth beneath layers. The truth of Troy isn't buried in earth, it's layered in meaning. A truth that war changes us, that beauty can curse, that victory may hollow. The horse stands, if not in wood, then in wisdom. Rest now, for next we ascend Olympus one last time, to watch the gods fade into story. Role of divine intervention. In the war for Troy, gods did not simply observe, they participated. They chose sides, they whispered into ears, they altered winds, sharpened spears, stirred dreams. To the mortals, the gods were justice and chaos, fate and fortune, but also mirrors. Hera's manipulation. Hera, queen of Olympus, backed the Greeks, not for love, but for revenge. Paris had chosen Aphrodite over her, and Hera does not forget. She sowed discord among kings, inflamed tempers, delighted in the slow unraveling of Troy. Beneath her grace burned fire, Athena's intellect. Athena chose Odysseus, not because he was kind, but because he was clever. She valued strategy over strength, deception over destruction. She inspired the horse, guided the hand that tricked, but when her temples burned, her favor soured. Even wisdom has limits. Zeus's neutrality. Zeus, lord of thunder, claimed neutrality, but even he was stirred. He favored Hector, but did not save him. He watched Troy burn, but did not stop it. Perhaps he knew some fates must play out. Even gods cannot silence time. Apollo's vengeance. Apollo loved Troy. He walked its streets, guarded its sons. When his priest was insulted, he sent plague. When Hector fought, he lent him light. But when the Greeks defiled temples, he turned away. His arrows, once golden, fell silent. The illusion of free will. Did Paris choose Helen? Did Achilles choose wrath? Or did the gods nudge them toward it? Were the kings of Greece puppets or players? It is hard to know, but what is clear, the strings were always there. Gods at war with each other. Olympus was not united. It was a family of rivalries, sibling against sibling, lover against lover. Their quarrels became mortal battles, and their grudges left scars on cities far below. In truth, the war of Troy began in heaven. Mortals as pawns, Achilles, Hector, Paris, Odysseus, great men, yes, but also pieces in divine hands. Some rose, some fell, all were used, and yet some defied even the gods. Perhaps that is why their stories remain. Belief as motivation, whether gods were real or not. Men believed in them, they prayed before battle, feared their wrath, trusted omens. The gods gave shape to chaos. To follow a god It was to feel chosen, even if the path led to ruin, fading divine influence. When the war ended, so did something else. The gods grew distant. Their temples emptied, their voices dimmed. They became myths, statues, stories. But in those stories, they still breathe, quiet now. In the next chapter, we listen to prophecy, not the kind that's heeded, the kind that's ignored. Cassandra's gift and curse. Cassandra, princess of Troy, could see the future. Apollo gave her the gift, but when she spurned his love, he twisted it. She would see all that was coming, but no one would believe her. She saw flames in Helen's smile, blood in Paris's footsteps, and her voice was ignored. Visions of doom. She saw the horse before it was built. She saw her brothers die. She saw herself dragged from temple steps. Each vision came like lightning, beautiful and cruel. But no matter how she screamed, the people smiled and dismissed her. Prophecy is not always power. Sometimes it is torment. No one listens. Trojans called her mad. They pitied her, mocked her, feared her. Even those who loved her looked away when her eyes rolled back, when her voice trembled. They didn't want the truth, they wanted comfort. And Cassandra could give only truth. The paradox of fate. If a prophecy cannot be believed, is it still a warning? If doom is certain, is it better not to know? Troy's fate was foretold many times, by seers, by dreams, by omens, and yet nothing changed. Perhaps fate does not need belief, only time. Whedon's unheeded. The night the horse stood outside the gate, Cassandra begged them not to touch it. She tore her hair, she cursed the gods, she warned the crowd. But they turned from her and brought it in anyway. Some truths are too terrible to bear. Laocoon's death. Laocoon, priest of Poseidon, also cried out. He struck the horse with a spear, called it deception. Then serpents rose from the sea, coiled around him and his sons, and dragged them beneath the waves. The Trojans saw it as punishment from the gods, but it was a silencing, a sign misread. Prophecy and punishment. In Troy, prophecy became punishment. Those who saw clearly suffered most. Cassandra was cursed. Laocoon was killed. Even Helen, who dreamed of destruction, lived long enough to see her name written in ash. Truth did not save them. Self-fulfilling cycles. Paris was warned. His birth marked the city for ruin. He was abandoned, raised by shepherds, but he returned and brought Helen. In trying to escape the prophecy, they fulfilled it. Fate is not always a chain. Sometimes it's a mirror. Ancient fear of the future. The Greeks feared what they could not see, but they feared prophecy more. To know the future was to carry its weight. They prayed for guidance, but shut their ears when it came. Sometimes silence feels safer than truth. Destiny's quiet triumph. The seers were right. Every word came true. Troy burned. The horse betrayed. The victors fell, and in the ruins only the wind repeated what had already been spoken. Sleep now. In the next chapter, we return to the fall itself, not as strategy or prophecy, but as symbolism of Troy's fall. Troy's fall was not just the end of a battle, it was the end of a world. Tasted a golden city, beloved by gods and mortals alike, fell not by force, but by deceit. It became a symbol for pride undone, for beauty betrayed, for the price of believing a lie. Urban destruction in myth. No story before Troy had captured a city's fall so vividly. The temples desecrated, the walls cracked, the palaces looted, and when storytellers later spoke of other ruined cities, they always compared them to one pivotal Troy. She became the standard of sorrow, fire, and memory. The fire that consumed Troy was not only physical, it burned through memory. Children were told of it, artists painted it, poets wept for it. The flames flickered across centuries, lighting candles in faraway lands. In every burning library, every siege. Troy whispered again. Cultural erasure. When a city dies, its people scatter, its stories change, its language fades, its gods grow quiet. Troy, once proud, became a ghost. Her statues shattered, her songs forgotten by the wind, but not entirely, for memory clings like ash to the soul. What survives? Not everything was lost. Aeneas escaped. Cassandra's name endured. Helen lived on in verses, and the horse, silent, hollow, terrible, stood eternal in story. The walls fell, but the lesson remained. Sometimes, survival lives not in stone, but in story. The price of conquest. The Greeks won the war, but what did they truly gain? Cities sacked, kings murdered, homes cursed. Gods turned against them. They carried gold and glory home, but they also carried ghosts. Troy's fall weighed on their hearts like bronze. Stories written by victors. History often favors the winners, but even the victors could not erase Troy's nobility, Hector's courage, Priam's grace, Andromache's sorrow, told by Greek tongues, yes, but with reverence Troy fell. But it did not fall in silence. Troy's eternal image. Artists painted Troy in marble halls. Writers etched its fall in golden ink. And even as the centuries passed, the image of Troy's towers stayed, cracked, burning, beautiful, not forgotten, never forgotten. Rebuilding versus forgetting. Some cities are rebuilt after ruin, but not Troy. Her ashes became legend. Her stones, poetry. Her silence, a lesson. She was not meant to rise again, but to rise in minds. The end becomes beginning. From Troy's fall came Rome's rise. From her ashes came Aeneas's journey, and from her silence came 1,000 stories. The city may have died, but the story lived. Close your eyes now. In the next chapter, we trace how that story echoed across time, into empires, books, and the modern soul. Troy in Roman literature. The Romans claimed descent from Troy. Aeneas, survivor of the fall, was their spiritual father. His tale, carried west, gave rise to the Aeneid, Virgil's masterpiece, to Rome. Troy was not just a fallen city. It was a beginning. Their empire was born in ashes and baptized in myth. Aeneid and Roman identity. In the Aeneid, Aeneas was not just a wanderer. He was fate's servant, a man who lost everything, but carried everything with him. His tears became triumph, his pain prophecy. The Romans saw in him their own struggle, and in Troy a noble origin. Middle Ages reinterpretation. As the Roman Empire faded, medieval Europe inherited the legend. Kings claimed Trojan ancestry. Knights read of Hector's honor. Churches adorned themselves with scenes of Troy, not as pagans but as martyrs. The story was retold through Christian eyes. Homer became scripture. The horse became sin. Renaissance art and Troy. Painters and poets rediscovered Troy with a new lens. They saw beauty in Helen, tragedy in Cassandra, power in Andromache. On canvas and parchment, Troy rose again, more vivid, more human, no longer just war, but emotion. Troy in modern warfare analogies. In the earth century, as nations waged global wars, Troy echoed again. Writers compared blitzed cities to Ilium. Politicians warned of wooden horses in politics. The past became metaphor, and the horse, still hollow, was filled with new fears. Trojan metaphors in politics, to say beware of Greeks bearing gifts, became common. It warned of deception, of soft betrayal, of trusting too quickly. The horse became more than a tactic. It became a symbol of the unexpected danger we welcome. Books, films, epics, from Shakespeare to Shakespearean drama, from Hollywood scripts to academic debates, Troy lives in every era's tongue. It is a setting, a character, a caution, and whether told through verse or screen, the horse still waits, the horse in cyberspace. Even in the digital age, the metaphor survives. Trojan Horse now names a virus, a program that looks harmless but hides destruction, from battlefield to hard drive. The warning remains the same, Trojans. Not all gifts are gifts. Eternal recurrence of betrayal. The story of Troy reminds us, starring that betrayal can come from within, that beauty can divide, that pride can undo nations. These themes repeat again and again. Each age builds its own horse and opens its own gates. Troy lives in story. Troy's towers fell, but her stories rise on paper, in song, in film, in whisper. They drift across languages. They survive translation. They echo because they are human, and because we need them. Sleep now, listener. In the final chapter, we step not into myth but into the mind, where the horse still waits, the horse as a symbol. The wooden horse was not just an object, it was an idea, a symbol of cleverness, of betrayal, of trusting too much, and over time it stopped being a tactic and became a mirror. Deception as strategy. The horse was the first of many lies dressed as gifts, a strategy not of strength, but of suggestion. Even today we see it in politics, in business, in friendships. Not every attack comes with a blade. Some come with a smile. Trust and tragedy. Troy fell not because of weakness, but because of hope. They believed in peace, in ritual, in meaning. The horse was their trust, sculpted into wood, and trust, once broken, leaves only fire. Collective blindness, Laocoon warned them. Cassandra begged, but no one listened. Sometimes it is easier to celebrate than question. Sometimes we choose silence, even when we know better. Troy teaches us this bardial, that truth often arrives alone. History's hidden traps. The horse teaches another lesson. Not all threats are obvious. Not all enemies wear armor. Some threats come inside our walls, quiet, patient, disguised, and when we see the trap, it is too late. The art of infiltration. The horse was more than brilliance. It was timing, psychology, subtlety, a perfect illusion. It reminds us that the most dangerous attacks do not force themselves in. They wait to be invited. Lessons for modern times. The horse lives on, in headlines, in classrooms, in code and diplomacy. We call it different names now, but its spirit remains. Every time we are offered something too good to be true, the horse waits. The shadow of myth. Troy fell long ago, but the horse lingers. It stands in stories, in minds, in cautionary tales. It is not wood anymore. It is memory, dreams shaped by legend. Tonight, someone dreams of burning gates, of hollow gifts, of a city falling to what it trusted. And someone else dreams of building a horse of their own. Because myth does not sleep, it visits softly, like this voice in your ear. Sleep well and remember Troy. Now the story is told, from gods to grief, from love to loss, from fire to memory. You have walked the ruins, climbed the walls, entered the horse, and now you rest. Troy may have fallen, but its story stands. Good night, listener, and beware the gifts you welcome in the dark. Thank you, dear listener, for joining us on this journey through the legend of the Trojan horse. As the stars shine above, and the night grows still, may the echoes of ancient stories bring you peace and reflection. We hope this tale carried you softly into sleep, or into wonder. If you enjoyed this journey, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps keep these timeless stories alive, retold with care for dreamers like you. From all of us behind the scenes, thank you for being here. Until our next adventure, sleep well and dream deep.